Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's lovely to be here, Martin. Thank you very much. I'm going to start off straight away by saying I'm sure, having viewed the profiles of everyone here today, that you must be wondering what could you possibly get out of a presentation about wine. Each one of you, totally different areas, totally different business capacities. I hope to answer that question in about 10 minutes. And if I don't, I hope I'll drive you to drink, because that'll assist my company greatly in the future. Seriously though, I would and did ask myself exactly the same question about 10 years ago when I attended a conference not dissimilar to the one that we're at today. It was around 10 years ago that I was still a foreign service diplomat, knew absolutely nothing about wine, but we had a great knowledge of how to consume the product. And one thing was for certain though, I was a frustrated entrepreneur. I was looking for every business opportunity possible, and I genuinely loved Hong Kong from the moment I arrived here in the early 90s. Therefore, my ears pricked up when I heard about a conference that was going to be held here at the conference center, CEC, back in June 2000, entitled, "Can Hong Kong be the Wine Center of Asia?" This is about 10 years ahead of its time. The idea was driven by none other than Donald Tsang, our current chief executive and #1 in government, and was presented by a lady called Yvonne Choi, who is our current Minister of Commerce, or Secretary of Commerce as she's known in Hong Kong. It was attended by about 300 people, wine traders, business people like yourselves, diplomats, and basically they were there to listen to this new government idea, typical Hong Kong government idea, and listen they did not. There was chatting amongst the conference delegates, there was the odd laugh here and there, the odd comment, and this culminated in actual open bursts of sporadic laughter when a short grey-headed gentleman came up to the stage from our lands department and said, by the way, we could possibly even look at wine storage taking place in our old historical buildings. Another concept that was 10 years ahead of its time. Now, why is this important, you may ask? Well, it was at that moment that I had my own personal epiphany. I realized I had no competition by virtue of looking at the 300 delegates who were half asleep and half laughing. I realized that I was likely going to enjoy full government support, for the simple reason that this was a government proposal coming from Hong Kong government, who tend to be pretty serious about what they say. And all I needed was a really good, sound business model to make it work. It was barely 10 years later that our little company has grown into Asia's most significant rare and fine wine storage and logistics company, with 4 facilities based in Hong Kong, 1 facility in Shanghai, 1 facility in Beijing, and growing all the time. It was also in those same 10 years that our Hong Kong government has done numerous things to back up that initial plan 10 years ago. Basically, they've dropped the tax to 0, as you heard about yesterday. This is out of all the things that have happened in the last 100 years in our fine wine industry internationally. This is probably rates in the top 10 issues. We've grown to be the 2nd largest fine wine market in the world, point blank, behind the US. We are Asia's fine wine storage capital. We are Asia's wine redistribution capital. We are the center for Asian wine fairs, conferences, competitions, and education. And we continue to innovate and initiate world-leading ideas, such as the wine certification program, which is just about to start, and even cross-border customs facilitation between ourselves and mainland China. This is the Hong Kong platform that I'm here to speak about. However, you may ask, this is 10 years ago. What about today? Surely things have changed and not so many opportunities exist. As with all industries, the answer is a resounding, if somewhat qualified, yes, these opportunities still do exist. While competition certainly has increased in many different areas, the fact is government still fully supports the initiatives that they propose, and as long as you've got a great business model, you're sure to succeed in this area of the world. This brings to me the second half of my presentation, which is what I like to refer to as the 5 chapters. Yesterday, I met 2 young Canadians in the audience, vibrant youngsters who are dealing in air quality research. They, like all of you, were looking for the secret ingredients that will give them a leg up in Asia, perhaps using Hong Kong as their foothold. Personally, I was very impressed with their attitude, and I sincerely hope that they do stay on and set up camp in Hong Kong. And by the way, if they are in the audience, please do give me a call if you are here and you do set up in Hong Kong. I'd love to assist you further. If I had more time to spend with them, what I would tell them is the following. Chapter 1, when everyone else is laughing, listen carefully and think for yourself. This is direct relevance to my situation 10 years ago. Many times our government stands up, makes a presentation concerning a new business idea, and I'm surrounded by people looking for the negatives, the things that won't make that business idea work. And this is something that all of us have discussed earlier prior to the speech beginning. This certainly happened to wine. I often wonder if people listened a little more seriously, made up their own mind, and then tackled things with a positive attitude, how many more business successes we would see around us. In the past 10 years, in the wine arena alone, our Hong Kong government has announced or assisted with numerous initiatives. Started with one, which sounded very improbable, and then moved on to inland bonded warehousing, flexible customs controls, adaptive reuse of heritage structures, tax reductions, and ultimately zero wine tax, wine storage certification, wine fairs, conferences, and so the list carries on. Any one of these initiatives could have been attractive enough to bring over some sort of foreign direct investment from overseas. But when you put them all together, you understand the grand plan and just how far ahead they were 10 years ago when they started down this process. Number 2, do your research very, very well. Hong Kong is one of the most transparent systems in the world. And before you begin to challenge that notion, government is not just about politics. Government is about the ability to access the internet and view up everything about zoning regulations, taxation, customs. All of this information is so readily and freely available in Hong Kong on this great platform that we have here. Usually when government makes a statement in Hong Kong about a new business interest, they also brief their departments incredibly well. So any questions that are coming in from the outside, from people like yourselves, they're usually very well geared up to answer those questions very efficiently. For example, when my gut feeling told me that this wine idea was the right thing to do, I still went on though and did another 1 year of research, because ultimately it's up to the entrepreneur himself to get things done. Very simple things like the exact direction to take. You can't expect government to spoon feed you. That time they were looking at Hong Kong being a general wine trading center. I realized that we are really a fine wine trading center. Government can be correct in the general perception, but sometimes not in the details. Furthermore, estimating the potential market, I realized back in 2000 that Hong Kong already owned 17% of all the rare and fine wine stocks in the world. That makes us the most prolific wine collectors anywhere else. This is at a time when people were looking at Hong Kong and saying, we need more education, we're just about to start on this journey, when we were actually way ahead of the curve. But all of these wines were overseas and presenting an amazing market to come back to Hong Kong. All the above and so much more holds true today. Just because other companies have been making money doesn't mean that you will make money. You need to do this research. Moves on to my chapter 3, which I term Indelible Moments. It's my favorite chapter because I have a very dear American US diplomatic friend who keeps on talking about indelible moments in his life, things that have impacted on him, that have stayed with him for the longest time. Well, prior to June 2000, I had many, many moments that I just looked at for 3 seconds, thought about for a while, and shifted away in a millisecond. After June 2000, when I was setting up my own company, believe me, I took care to check every single indelible moment. And it's only through one of these indelible moments in August 2001 that my company got started off. And this happened through a gentleman that you were actually introduced to yesterday, a chap called Jim Thompson. I don't know if you recall, but our financial secretary was having a banter with somebody inside the audience. That was Jim. And Jim is the chairman of Crown Worldwide Group. Well, his wife and I had become good friends over the years. And it was his wife who knew that Jim wanted to do wine storage, but hadn't yet started off on the idea. She also knew that I had focused myself into fine wine cellaring and also the adaptive reuse of heritage buildings. At 3 o'clock in the morning, after a huge amount of wine and the last people to leave, the idea got put together, and basically Sally introduced me to Jim so that we could share our ideas, and so the Crown Wine Cellars idea began. One indelible moment, a little bit of extra care, and two people speaking to each other, one providing finance, one providing the concept, and you have yourself a company. Chapter 4. Hong Kong's greatest advantages as a business center and a platform for Asia. A level playing field. I certainly do not come from a privileged background, nor will I ever inherit huge sums of money. I do not benefit from the best education ever given, and I was not born in a country that I now call home. So, within all of that, I still have enjoyed the greatest level playing field of any place in the world. Rule of law. Hong Kong has the greatest rule of law of any place that I've come across, and it's applied daily. It's what makes us great. Absolute fairness. This is not something written down in legislation. This is a social attitude that we have in Hong Kong. We are intrinsically fair. My last chapter, chapter 5, the most controversial, but something that attracts me to Hong Kong more than any other. Hong Kong rewards hard work and does not tolerate laziness. I was born in a developing country to hard-working parents. As mentioned by Martin, my grandfather came over to Africa when he was 13 years old in 1888. He was illiterate, and he was sent over by his parents to have a new beginning, a new start. He never ever saw his parents again. In my background, we had to work in order to pay for our university, unlike today. I used to do work before university classes and after university classes. When I graduated from university, no gap years, no opportunities to find myself. We were told we had to go straight into the workforce and begin to pay back all the loans that we had built up over the years. This is a foreign concept in the lands of my ancestors, but it is very common here in Hong Kong. And I'm proud to see it every single day amongst my staff members. And it's one of the reasons why Hong Kong will still be a leading light in the world in 50 years' time, whether it be as Asia's fine wine trading center or your platform to the Asian region. Thank you very much for your time and patience, and I wish you a great conference. Thank you.